Okay. I'm going to share. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Glad to see Amanda and Lady, and I'm Annie, and we're doing our monthly librarian book chat about books we're excited about. I'm with the Huntsville Public Library, and Amanda is too. She's the manager of the Monrovia branch. And Lady Smith is our wonderful, the Snail on the Wall local independent bookseller, and she will even deliver books to your door. So can't beat that. And we have fun picking out and choosing the coolest books coming out every month. So we're looking at May. And as always, I'll get us started, our new releases. So I think every month we say we always have trouble picking, but especially I think as we're getting into spring, we really all had trouble picking because there's so many good releases coming out. And if we don't mention it, it doesn't mean we're not excited about it. We just literally can't fit it all in. So, but I'll start with some of the ones that I'm really looking forward to. The first one is Hour of the Witch by Bajalian, and he's just, I haven't read all of his books, but he's just the most amazing writer. A lot of his books are from the point of view of women, and I feel like he's one of those people, you know how where they can write and you're like, you feel like it's like he could have been a woman as far as perspectives, and it just, yeah, and he's written books like the Flight Attendant, which they recently made into a series, and they range the gamut. They could be like sort of literary, you know, sort of quiet dramas, or sort of the more like the Flight Attendant, where it's this, you know, kind of thrillery stuff. And then this Hour of the Witch goes back in time, as you can imagine, to New England. It's 1622. And I'm sorry, 1662. I'm getting my dates wrong. And the character is named Mary Deerfield. She's from England. She's, you know, a pilgrim, and she is young, beautiful, but she's come to be the second wife of a man who is very cruel, and, you know, probably is just having her there as a, you know, a breeding machine. And he's also a drunk, and he sticks a fork in her hand at one point, and she realizes she has to leave, you know, and obviously that's kind of, you know, undoable. Meanwhile, she becomes accused of witchcraft because a boy that she's trying to help with some herbs dies, and then a servant girl runs screaming from the house, and so all these things conspire against her. And this reminds me, the premise kind of reminds me of the Plague Year. The author's name is escaping me right now, but just some of those really, really good historical novels. And this comes out May 4th, so I'm excited about that. The next one is by an Alabama author you may have heard of. Her first book was a Barnes & Noble, you know, new authors pick back in, I think it was 2008. Jen Phillips, and she's written several others since then. She's from Birmingham. And this is called Family Law, and it, again, just sounds fascinating, set in Alabama in the 80s, and a young female lawyer named Lucia. And she is helping, she's working with a family with a teenage daughter who takes a real shine to her. And apparently there have been some threats. It sounds like it might be like a custody battle. And the girl is attacked, and it puts Lucia in danger as well, and her family, which, you know, before this feels removed from all the turmoil that happens in her work. And it's told from both perspectives of the young girl and then the lawyer. And it just, you know, I've gotten to meet Jen Phillips before. She's a lovely person, and I know her writing is excellent. So this sounds like it'll be one we all want to read. The next one, oh gosh, I love Jean Hamp Corlitz. And I hope I'm saying her name right. She wrote the Admissions, I want to say, if I'm saying the title right, which they made that one into a movie. And then the one that she more recently wrote is they made it's one of the streaming networks made a show about it. It's got Nicole Kidman in it, and You Should Have Known. That's what the name of the book is. And I think they titled the show something a little bit different, but it's got Hugh Grant and Nicole Kidman. She is everything I've read by her is really just pretty spectacular. The way she writes and the ideas that she comes up with. And this one kind of sounds just very intriguing, sort of a deal with the devil sort of thing. This is a guy who had come out with a breakout book, first book, and noted and, new and notable book, bestseller. And then, sometimes the second one just doesn't happen. He can't live up to the first one. So he becomes, he's teaching in an MFA program, and it's not even the best one. And one of his students kind of refuses all his help because he's like, oh, I've got, the plot of my book is going to be, a bestseller, and I don't need your help. And the guy's like, well, okay then. And yeah, it does sound amazing. And after the class, he kind of expects to hear something about this and never does. And turns out he finds out a few years later that this student has died. And the book with the amazing plot has never been published. So he takes the plot and he writes the book and becomes, bestseller, worldwide famous. And then he gets a letter or a note one day that says, you're a thief. And, ooh, so who stole from who? I think it just sounds like a really fun, interesting read. And so yeah, she's amazing. The fourth book I have here is called Madam by Phoebe Nguyen. And this is sort of one of those Gothic academic, boarding school mysteries that I know I've mentioned before that I always enjoy. And just you can tell from the cover what it's going to be about. But it's a school that's 150 years old. It's a boarding school for girls set on the Scottish cliffs. And a young woman, as a young classics teacher, comes to teach, and she's going to, kind of change things around. That's what she thinks, and discovers there's like a lot more going on than she knows. And, mysterious reasons why her predecessor left. And, obviously the school, there's ulterior motives. And it's just sounds fun, if you like kind of Gothic-y, mysterious sorts of things. I think that'll be really, really cool. My final pick here is called The Cave Dwellers by Christina McDowell. And this one is set, it's called like kind of a cross between Bonfire of the Vanities and The Nest. So I was like, okay, rich families and, weird like drama happening. And this is actually set in Washington, D.C. of all the very, very top echelon families. And they, aristocratic, have been around for generations. And they all live in their own little bubble, their gilded world. And one of them, the summary doesn't say who, but one of them is held hostage and brutally murdered. So obviously the bubble is punctured. It sounds like a really good kind of look into, these worlds and what happens when things get turned upside down. So anyway, needless to say, these are on my holds lists, and I don't know how I'm going to read them all, but I'm going to try. So, okay, well, I will stop, and I'm going to we're going to have Amanda talk about some of her upcoming nonfiction picks. So, Amanda, if my screen, there we go. Take it away.
All right, thank you. I am so excited about these books, as always. So many good nonfiction books coming out all the time. The first one comes out on May 4th. It's The Premonition by Michael Lewis. You may recognize Michael Lewis from The Big Short and Moneyball. So he has a knack for taking kind of complex, really dry subjects like finance and sports statistics and making them engaging. And in this book, he's tackling the pandemic, and sounds like it's mainly the early days of the pandemic and how it unfolded. He centers it on 3 different stories. One of the characters is a 13-year-old girl. She had a science project on transmission of an airborne pathogen, that kind of develops into a more of a grown-up model of disease control. And then the second one is a local public health officer who uses her view to see what the CDC is missing. And then the third is a secret team of dissenting doctors nicknamed the Wolverines. They have everything that's necessary to be able to fight the pandemic. They have great backgrounds, world-class labs, prior experience working with bird flu and swine flu, but they don't have official permission to implement their work. So this book is going to kind of take these on what sounds like kind of a true crime narrative.
Wow.
Interesting. So this was just announced in January, and it's already being published. And I haven't seen any reviews for it yet, so I have no idea what's going to come out of this book, but it sounds intriguing. All right, the next one is The Secret to Superhuman Strength by Alison Bechdel. This one also comes out May 4th. Alison Bechdel is the author of Phone Home. She does graphic memoirs, and the style of this one looks absolutely beautiful. There's a lot of pen and ink, and then she does color washes, especially on scenes depicting nature. So it sounds really just beautiful. And she does a great job of telling her memoir and personal story in very heartfelt and engaging ways. And in this one, she tackles her love affair with exercise. So she's going through all of the fad exercises and talking about her personal growth and self-improvement through these exercise lenses. And sometimes that clicks and sometimes it kind of falls short. And she also brings in a personal experience to history. So she follows a few poets and philosophers and writers that she feels a personal connection to. So you have all of this self-improvement through exercise and mindfulness and the mind-body connection, all with this beautifully styled book. So excited to see how this one turns out. All right, the third one is Films of Endearment by Michael Kres, also coming out on May 4th. The subtitle is A Mother, a Son, and the 80s Films That Defined Us. So you can kind of get an idea from the subtitle, but this is a set of movies that came out in the 80s. The structure is that the mother and son are revisiting 80s movies that she introduced him to when he was younger and growing up. And there's one film from each year of the 80s. And they're using this together as a way to unpack a different dimension of their relationship and kind of tell the story of their family. So it'll talk about the death of Michael Kresge's father, talk about the complex relationship with his brother, and how Kresge kind of fell in love with film. And another interesting aspect of this is that all of the movies that they talk about have strong female actresses front and center. So he was introduced to this idea of powerful women at a very young age. So I think that adds a cool little twist to it. All right, and the next one is another memoir, some great memoirs this month. This is Punch Me Up to the Gods by Broome. This one comes out May 18th. And this is a poetic and raw coming-of-age memoir about Blackness, masculinity, and addiction. So Broome grew up in Ohio as a dark-skinned Black boy who had crushes on other boys. So he described his youthful indiscretions and some cringeworthy sexual episodes and trying to figure out that whole arena and some really heartbreaking setbacks. But he'll build up that just heartbreak and hurt and anguish, and then he'll make you laugh. So very up and down, really interesting dynamics. The essays are actually formed around Gwendolyn Brooks' most famous poem, We Real Cool, which is a loving ode to Black boyhood. But the kind of Black boyhood experience she's talking about in this poem is not exactly how his experience was. So there's that constant clash of where I think that idea of masculinity comes into the story. And there's a really great blurb from Kiese Lehman that I want to talk about that seems to sum it up really well. It says, Punch Me Up to the Gods obliterates what we thought were the limitations of not just the American memoir, the possibilities of the American paragraph. I'm not sure a book has ever had me sobbing, punching the air, dying of laughter, and needing to write as much as Brian Broome's staggering debut. So this sounds amazing. I'm so excited to pick this one up. All right, the last one is The Secret World of Weather by Tristan Gooley. Comes out May 25th. And this is how to read signs in every cloud, breeze, hill, street, plant, animal, and dewdrop. So Tristan Gooley is also the author of The Natural Navigator. So instead of approaching weather from the perspective of a meteorologist, it's coming from a naturalist perspective. So it's all about seeing the signs in nature around us that indicate what weather is coming. And one blurb said it's the perfect blend of practical knowledge and irresistible whimsy. Can't go wrong. Some of the things to watch out for that were noted in the summary: listen for the way crickets chirp faster as the temperature rises, spot how snowflakes shrink with colder air and grow just before they stop falling, let perching birds point out the direction of the wind, learn why pine cones close up in high humidity, and then one that's really important for us in our area: watch out for storms when clouds are more tall than they are wide. So now you know, check out the book for more signs for what weather's coming our way. And that's it.
Wow, that is so cool. I didn't know any of those things. I have to, you sold me on all of these. They just sound amazing. And Films of Endearment, I was like, oh man, are we going to cry when we read this one?
Yes.
Probably, yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for these excellent picks. I can't wait to read them all. Okay, so now we are moving on to ladies' picks. And again, my screen is just, hanging out. There we go. All right.
Okay. Well, and I was thinking as Amanda was talking, well, and you too, Annie, we're entering it's sort of a gift giving season with Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduation. And some of my picks seem like great gift books. And I was thinking the same thing, that Mother's Day, Films of Endearment. But you're going to want to read these for yourself too. So I'll start with Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. This is what I happen to be reading at the moment. I've just started it, but already just deep into this sweeping saga. This was chosen as the Indie Next #1 pick for May, which is the list that independent booksellers around the country vote on. And so this is the #1 pick. And it is just already, the writing is beautiful. And the story is unique too. It is about, it follows two storylines and time periods, but it is about a female aviator in the early part of the 20th century who just develops a love for planes and flying. And during that time period with her family history, we're already seeing so many historic references to the Lusitania, because there's a big ship crossing the Atlantic, and Charles Lindbergh's flight across the ocean. And so already it just brings in these historical events, and it's set in New York, it's set in Montana, it kind of moves all over the place. Hollywood. So the other storyline is that there is a young actress who has been hired to play this aviator in a film in contemporary time. So it's got those two, and she's struggling to play this role because of her own parents died in a plane crash. So she's going to have to revisit some of that. So it's just a great story about family and women, and it's going to be a great read. So now I will move on to Andy Weir and Project Hail Mary. Andy Weir burst on the scene a few years ago with The Martian. He had never written before, and The Martian was just right. I think he was a software engineer maybe in his profession, and he wrote The Martian, and it was, as we all know, a runaway bestseller, then a movie. So this is like that one. This is science fiction, but the kind of science fiction that appeals to everyone. It's got a fast plot. You want to know what's going to happen. It's got a very human story. So this one is about an astronaut who is the sole survivor of some sort of catastrophe that has killed his crewmates. He is the only one left hurtling through space in this tiny spaceship with fuzzy memories. He's not sure what happened. And so he's trying to puzzle out what happens before not only he dies, but also there's a threat to the whole human race. So this is definitely one of those books that you don't have to like science fiction or read it normally to enjoy this. So you're going to want to pick that up. Then my next one is John Green, another writer that is beloved, the Anthropocene Reviewed. And this is a collection of essays because he has expanded, he's got a podcast by the same name. And he has expanded that podcast and some of those episodes into a series of essays. So the Anthropocene is the geological period that we are now in. And so what he's done in the podcast is he takes certain kind of human aspects of our planet, things that we've created, the QWERTY keyboard, things like that, but also planet, things that are part of our world, like sunsets. And so he just reviews those on a scale of 1 to 5 with stars in the podcast, and sort of says, how are we doing as our human footprint on the planet. So, but he is such a great storyteller. I mean, a lot of people may not have read some of his books because they're sometimes considered for YA, but not necessarily. But he's a fantastic storyteller. His brother, Hank Green, also a great writer, storyteller, but they do videos. They're multimedia kind of storytellers. So this one I feel like could be a great book to give someone else. And now we come to a book that Annie was equally excited about. We sort of fought over who was going to present While Justice Sleeps. Stacey Abrams, yes, that Stacey Abrams from the political scene, the national political scene. She is a great novelist. This is a political thriller being compared to Dan Brown or The Pelican Brief, John Grisham. It is about a young woman who is a law clerk for a longtime legendary Supreme Court justice. And he suddenly slips into a coma, and she finds out that she's been named his legal guardian while he's in the coma. She also finds out that he had been researching a very controversial court case about genetics, medical ethics. And so she's finding out that, there were some secrets, and she's trying to puzzle that out. And while he's meanwhile, in the hospital. So this is a complete page turner, but also just very interesting, got all kinds of issues about law and medical ethics and all of that. So this is, I've already had so many pre-orders for this. People are very excited about Stacey Abrams' new book. So that is something to look for. And then I will finish with a light, fun, always welcome novel by Christina Lauren. And that is the pen name for two women who write together as Christina Lauren. And they have published, I've lost count of how many novels they've written, but they have it down. They are so good at what they do. They truly co-write. They're very good friends. And this one is going to be another great one and perfect just in time for summer. So this one, and a lot of my picks this time have some science in them, not necessarily intentionally, but this, the protagonist of the soulmate equation works in data and statistics. And she's a single mother and hasn't dated in a long time. And she decides to sign up for a new matchmaking company that's called, I think, Genetic Ally. And so what they do is truly use real data, real statistics to find your soulmate. And so she thinks, okay, I can sign up for that because I believe in data. And so anyway, but the person that they appoint for her is a real surprise and someone she knows. So that's just going to be a great read to pick up and put in your beach or pool bag if we ever get to the beach or pool. So those are my picks for May. And it was hard because we left some out, but these are all great.
We sure did. And these are so exciting. And I know Stacey Abrams, lady, I'm sure you know this, she's also writes romances under the name Selena Montgomery. So if you're, browsing and you see Selena Montgomery, that's Stacey Abrams, all her work there. So, and I did not know Christina Lauren was a duo. So always makes me curious.
Had the pleasure of interviewing them and for an author event last year, just after everything went virtual. They were supposed to come to Huntsville and then everything shut down. So hopefully we'll get them back here sometime. They are so fun. They are a delight.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all these exciting books. And yes, Snail on the Wall, as you are getting into graduation, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all those things, remember that you've got a wonderful source for gift giving. So thank you. And I have got, real quick, I won't talk about them, but I will put these on our Goodreads, and I know Lady will have this on her site as well. We've got all the books that we wanted to talk about, but we just couldn't. So that's our slide of all those other great reads. And finally, real quick, I will mention our Librarian Book Club pick for May. This should be a great beach read. It is by Sunny Hostin, who is an Emmy Award winner. She's on The View. She's one of the ladies of The View. She's written, this is the beginning of a trilogy, if I'm understanding. It is called Summer on the Bluffs. And it is set in Oak Bluffs, which is the most exclusive Black beach community in the country, going back to the 1600s, and in Martha's Vineyard. And it's a woman named Amelia has built a house several decades before, never had kids, but married and has 3 goddaughters. And she invites them all for the summer. She's going to give her house to one of them. We don't know who. I think they kind of have to, prove they're worthy to be the one. So, but the goddaughters all grew up, even though they were from different families, knowing each other. And so I think exploring those relationships with each other and with their godmother, and in a beach read, it just looks really fun and interesting, and a great way to kick off the summer with something like this. So that will be our pick. It comes out May 4th. And we're just so glad you joined us today, as always. And thank you to Amanda and to Lady. And stay tuned for our picks for June. We'll be putting that out next month. So thank you all so much. Everyone have a good day. Bye.